they would win Serie A during the course of this season, in, shall we say, dubiously wet circumstances on that final day, and Juventus having the cheek to cry about chicanery and shenanigans. And this is one of the most appropriately named teams in football, SS Lazio. Yeah, we can guess what the SS stands for in reality, but tell me about them at this time. You have another Inzaghi, you have Marcelo Salas, whom everybody loves after World Cup 98. You still got Stanković there, 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐵𝐿 there, Sinisa's still there, and Nesta's still kicking about. And of course,
Nesta, Simeone, yeah.
They're managed by Sven. How different was that Lazio team to what he would do with England very quickly, actually, late 2000? Is it that 4-4-2? Or was there a wee bit more variation with him?
It's similar for sure. Eriksson for me is very much in the Ancelotti and Del Bosque sort of category of here's all the players and I'll try and come up with a solution. Famously didn't really work with England. And I think with this one there's just an absolute embarrassment of Ritchie's that it almost couldn't not work. It's an interesting time in Serie A here, because they're really starting to fall off. Now, it's weird because you look through the squads, and this Lazio squad, I think we said on either the first Q&A or the second Q&A, it's one of the best squads I've ever seen. And
Nedvěd as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's one of the best squads I've seen. However, maybe this is the start of decline, and as you know, everybody likes to be dramatic about things and say this is the point that everything went to shit. But I think they're now starting to get left behind. Serie A in general, I'm talking about here. They've all moved back to 3 at the backs, with the exception of Lazio. I think 2/3 of Serie A, or even 3/4, it might be as much as that, had moved to a back 3 again. Lazio are the only one out of the big 7 that are still playing a back 4 at this point. They're almost, 𝐼𝐶𝐾𝐭 himself wasn't happy with this. He said they've almost like they kind of went back 15 years and retreated into kind of catenaccio, I guess. And he just wasn't happy with it. He thought they were becoming a little bit insular, which at a time when everyone else is opening their doors, essentially. You've got the Bosman rule, and you've got the European, like 2000 European, the Euro, all that sort of stuff is happening. He felt like they went a little bit insular and almost like sort of closed the borders up. Maybe it was just sort of reverting back to what you know after the big money starting to be spent by Madrid and the Premier League sort of coming to the fore. They've sort of just went back into themselves a little bit, and I think they really suffered for that. And it doesn't happen immediately. They've still got some great teams up until I guess the mid 2000s, really. But you can sort of see it starting to come, and they're starting to be a little bit insular. But that doesn't take anything away from where Lazio are just now. Lazio are fantastic, brilliant season, like you said. Won it the last day, won the Coppa Italia as well, beaten by Valencia in the quarters, and that's, I guess that's a bit of a what if there, because either one of them, both of them are having a really, really good season there. Yeah. Either one of them would have got to the final, I think. So an interesting one. Would Madrid, Lazio have been more of a equal, more of a contest, more of a fair fight? I think probably. But I think we'll come on to that. But yeah, it was a really interesting team. We discussed the embarrassment of Ritchie's that they had. Marcelo Salas, for me, I don't know if it was a championship manager thing or not there, but I just absolutely loved him. I just thought
everyone did, Adam. I think it maybe France 98, even your more kind of casual viewers, that Chile team everyone loved because they sing an anthem well and they play some great stuff. But he had something about him that everyone just kind of fell in love with Salas.
It's interesting as well because he wasn't, I guess you could say this with Batistuta as well, but they're not exactly larger than life personalities. They're kind of,
they're glam though. You know, they've got the long hair. They look South American, if that our stereotype.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
They've got that glamour, the cool names, you know, even just Marcelo Salas, Gabriel Batistuta. They sound cool, they look cool, and they score loads of goals. And I think that they play into our stereotype of, you know, I think we've got two, the glamorous South American forwards and the absolute hatchet man, complete bastard of a defender. So I think that Salas fit into that.
100%. And then you mentioned Simone Inzaghi as well. I mean, you wouldn't really think he would be a sort of lesser light of this team, but he gets 9 goals in the Champions League this year, and he's really starting to come to the fore. So they even had players that you maybe thought were a little bit unfancied were coming in and smashing it. They were a really, really strong team.
Good point about maybe this tipping point of Serie A. They'll have their own final in a few seasons, but that does seem a bit of an aberration, and they're going to go bananas with money in maybe a year, maybe that summer of 2001, especially Lazio, who just went crazy and didn't sign well, shall we say. But anyway, Verón was there. No, was it Verón at Lazio? It was just dripping, absolutely dripping talent. Davey, they're in a group with Dynamo Kiev, whom we have shown a lot of love for. Not quite the same Dynamo Kiev this time, because 𝐬𝐻𝐵 is now at Milan. Bayer Leverkusen are in that group. Again, another team recently scudded by the famous Glasgow Rangers, of course. They are warming up, I suppose, to their big moment in a couple of seasons. The aforementioned Maribor, lucky to be there. They have the t-shirt and yeah, whipping boys. But Lazio crush this group, absolutely crush it. 4 wins, 2 draws, draws bookend on either side, plus 10 goal difference in a 6-game group. They had a lot of fun here.
Yeah, they were looking serious contenders, and the squad that they'd built was, first of all, to win the Scudetto. That is, still very, very, very important to Italian teams and manage, even now, to retain the importance of their league title. But after that, it wasn't to just win Scudettos once they'd done it. It was to advance in Europe. And this wasn't new for Lazio. You can go back to the Gascoigne signing and other foreign players that they'd brought in over the years, 𝐵oksic and Aaron Vinted, etc. That Lazio had been. They had Lotito, the chairman, who was a good old-fashioned Italian head case, and they wanted to really make themselves the sort of next iteration, the next Milan, the next Juventus, and they felt that it was set up for them to do that. That you'll see this season, actually. You mentioned 𝐬𝐻𝐵. He might have regretted in the final standings where he ended up. But it was such a talented squad, very well managed. And the thing about Sven, I'm glad we get the chance to go back and go over things because of the sort of tabloid infamy, Sven. You mention him in the UK now, and most people will mention Ulrika Jonsson and things like that. He was a tremendous club football manager. I mean, really was, from his time in Sweden through to Benfica, through to Italy. He was a winner. He was a trophy winner. And he had that gift that the winning coach of this entire tournament needed to have as well, which is that ability to marshal these egos in the dressing room. He put together a very fluid side. It was, as Adam mentioned, they're relatively tactically simple. Which you can get away with if you've got the best team and they all know what they're doing and they all work in sync, and this team certainly did that.